Good afternoon, guys, or good evening, or good morning, whenever time that you are watching this. Some of you might be wondering, Judas, what's the format of this video? Why is it being all podcasty like? Well, here's an official talk video about experiences and why I got out of the investigative field and why I'm back into it now. Remember the last one I did? That one was very messy and very low quality. This one is as best as I could get it so far. Still working on that sound, but it's pretty dang close to what I want it to be. So we're gonna get into it today and talk about why exactly I stopped investigating in my personal time before I was more public about it, and also why I'm getting back into it and what do I have for the future and what I'm doing right now to hopefully have that keep going for everybody and myself. I guess I can start out with saying I've always been into this type of stuff since I was very little. I was literally one of those weird kids in elementary school that would pick up those books from the library that talk about ESP and aliens and folklore or ghosts, of course, and all the different places that were definitely that were definitely spooky. Of course, always blown out more than they actually are, but it's okay. It's okay. It was something to enjoy at the time within the age range that I was. This experience that I'm going to talk about is very kind of dark in a sense. I have always experienced mainly negative attractions in the spiritual field. I've had a lot of negative things come for me, throw hands with me since I was little. It's just the type of home I lived in. There's a lot of negativity in that home, and some people that were experimenting with things were not very safe. So I saw some scary sheets. I used to do kind of like personal paranormal investigations by myself. I didn't really have the forethought to document it at all because I was in that time frame where like it was just about to be like popularized more often on YouTube, and all I had was a very broken phone and it didn't even have service, and I was also homeless at the time. So like even if I wanted to, I was right under the limit of being able to, even with having a device in general. And they also didn't have many video editing apps back then too. So we're talking like from this personal experience per se, beginning of 2018, and then I officially stopped nearing the end of 2018 because it got really rough for me there. Just personal life stuff, but what really stopped me spiritually was right before that. Personal stuff happened, which I've actually talked to a few people and they have some opinions that I will share of what exactly they said to me. That might have helped me get a bit different perspective of it, almost. But sometimes I still get it in my gut and it just makes me very like, ick. I used to mainly do things by the sense or use apps that were kind of fishy, kind of fishy. They're a little fishy. But I was trying to have like good faith in that people are actually trying to use their phones more often. And I used to have a little scan radio as well. I used to first off go out unprotected spiritually. I didn't have anything that I would wear to keep me safe. Sometimes would draw certain types of symbolic things on me in ink, and that I'm just telling you guys, never do that. Never do that. I was part of a group that was just not safe in general. They were like a type of a cult group, if you would say, but it wasn't like, they were just being dumb, flat out dumb. But outside of that, at the outskirt of that, I had a lot of friends that wanted to, drive me out to these places to experience these things and see things and talk to things. And I was like, sure, whatever. And I just willingly did it without even questioning it. I think the real reason, I guess I could say, as why I wasn't so careful in the past was because I was so used to living in negativity and seeing big dark shadow figures, things that would kick me up awake at night, and things that would like literally yell in your ear. Like I'm not exaggerating, they would literally yell in your ear. There's a lot about home that I grew up in that just is totally messed up, and everybody in that house has experienced things, but I would only tell you my experiences, of course. We started going to different types of parks that had kind of a little bit of folklore to it, a little bit of like exaggerated stories. There were actual tragedies that happened on these properties, and even one of these properties allegedly, there you go, that's a better word, Jeffrey Dahmer went to for a while, and I didn't even know. I did not know. It's the Indian River State Park. It's right next to it. There's a giant mansion that's been renovated and everything. So like, I didn't know that till recently. I don't know if that's factual. I haven't done like the fact check on that, but apparently he was arrested trying to meet up with somebody else. So if that's true, he has been known in the spiritual community to kind of bring negativity with him, bring things with him, and then those things that come with him stay at those places. That's an alleged thing. I'm not saying anything else other than that. I used to go to these certain parks. One of them I actually revisited about a year ago now. It's a month off from a year ago now. And I used to sleep at that park. I used to see some pretty messed up stuff there, spiritually speaking. It was just overall kind of scary to be there because there would be a lot of delinquents that would still visit there. Even though the park gates are closed, you can still just walk over them. That's why I slept there. I started taking a friend with me. We're gonna call him B. We're just gonna call him B. Oculus, I believe it's pronounced, type experimenting, where like the words pop up when you ask a question, or if you're trying to initiate a conversation, several words would pop up. So we would use 2 phones. We would not double the word bank. We would try to give the spirits a way to make a sentence instead of just a word. And I used to wear this particular crystal around my neck. It was a type of amethyst. I wore that a lot to everywhere. It kept me protected. It made me feel protected. And a lot of the time they were telling me to take it off. A lot of the time they were telling me that there's salvation in taking it off. I know I can't show you any of this experimental stuff that I used to do when I was younger, back in 2018, because I just didn't have what I have now to do that. You just gonna have to take my word for it. They used to talk about my necklace a lot. They used to tell me to try to bring more crystals for some reason, and I never went there to bother what the real news story was about because I think it's disrespectful, especially spiritually speaking. They did ask to be left alone. If you do go back and watch that video, which I will link up somewhere in this video, you'll understand what I'm talking about and where I'm talking about. Got a lot of spirits talking to us saying that they were abandoned there apparently, and somebody's husband, they went looking out in that area, that passed away there because somebody took them. A group of people took them, or took him. We also had like an almost type of EMF reader attached to it too, so whenever it went to red or yellow, I don't know if you guys caught that or heard that. I do have spirit activity. We'll talk about it in a bit, about the homeland. What was I saying? So I got interrupted. I lost my train of thought, so I had to rewatch the 10-minute part that I had of this, and I had to change a bunch of files out of the main drive into the second or third drive because my fiance still has to fix up my first one because it's an old one. All right, back to the story. So every time that we would follow the EMF marker, we would treat it as like a trail or a path or like an arrow. So if it went really, really yellow or really, really red, we would follow it into that, and then we would get more words. And the odd part about it, and made me feel more of like it's a like kind of legit situation, was because the sentences and what we were told in story lines were like very concise, I think I could say. It went together. It all went together. So like whenever we got things, it always went together, and it had nothing to do with like what we would talk about personally. So let's say I'm talking about the weather, right? But then the words would pop up as, oh, I passed away this way, oh, this is my name, oh, this is my age, or this is how this is where I lived, or how I went missing and stuff like that. So the only reason why I kind of took it as a more legit evidence to myself is because of those situations to where there was no being listened to on the app while you were using it, especially when I kept it on airplane mode to make sure that there was nothing that could directionally mess with that. To this day, I kind of feel like it's more of evidence for me, so I'm just gonna leave it as that and move on with the story now. So the very first thing that kind of made me feel very stomach turning about leaving the spiritual investigative part of my life is that we were doing that. We were following all of the words and the sentences and the hot spots, as I call it, and we got to a certain spot that smelled like death. It's really disgusting. That was the only time I've really actually found out like how that smells. So I had to have B call in anonymously to report possible remains back there. I don't think they were human, because if they were human, they would have contacted us afterwards and then definitely like interrogated us, because, you know, self-report can happen. So, but that was the first strike on that. It was really gross. It was really disgusting. After that situation happened, I do know there were witnesses in that day when they did do the cleanup and the investigation. It might have been a sacrificial thing. Somebody might have went back there and actually did some bad stuff, and that was just messed up in general. Like, it was like a public park too. Like, you're not supposed to be doing that. Like, it's not even like an urban park per se. It's just a park that like does have things there, but only if you pay attention to them and they know that you pay attention to them. Just like any other place. Like, if your house is haunted, your house is only going to be as active as it can unless you pay more attention to it and you feed into it, depending on what type of spirit it is. We came back a few weeks later after going to a beach that a wild situation happened. I don't know what that was. And we went to that park that I mentioned earlier with the fountains and the mansion. And at that visitation, before we went back to this other park, we went to the mansion, right? Technically, you could walk up on property on certain hours, so we kind of like walked up and went on one of the outside balconies, and right next to the door with the basement, technical basement. And there was a lot of the old artwork down there, and I was kind of like, oh, that kind of sucks. I was a little salty about it, honestly, because I never got to see the place before they renovated it to weddings and stuff, but whatever. We sat up on the balcony, we started using our devices, and same thing again. It would be a full long sentences, but this time it was straight up threats. Like, get off of here, we're gonna throw you off the balcony, you shouldn't be here, we hate it here, this place is disgusting. Like, they were talking mad smack about the place and us. And it was just very malicious, and it was just not okay. Now, I'm not sure to this day, looking back on it, if it was actually what I will discuss in a moment here was causing issues, or it was the actual place that just was very unhappy with the renovations, and also like all of the objects that were there inside were just shoved under the building. But it was just not okay. It was not welcoming, and it's just very intense. If you try to poke around there, it's intense, and I don't even think you can do it now. I did it when they were still kind of open up to people walking up there every once in a while. There is a marker there that involves with a war and some historical stuff that happened in the area, so that might be why it's negative, because there is history that happened on that area. Circling back to that park again, even after that situation, I kind of like made it down into like some watery soup, and I'm like, listen, I need to get to the bottom of spirituality for me. I need to find a path that feels better for me. Like, nothing in my life is going correctly at all. It's never been correct, but it just got worse and worse and worse because I had no options. It was either a abusive home or the streets. So I just really clung on to spirituality. I really clung on to it with whatever I could to keep me motivated. And I did jobs. I worked and everything. I worked and I slept on the street. I worked and I slept on the street. That's all I ever did. So it was a really rough time at the moment, and I was couch surfing between B's house and somebody else's house at the time, and they both are just terrible people. In the end, terrible people. But we're not going to get into that because I've already discussed that publicly all over my platforms of the past several years. So it's a kicking a dead horse at this point. We visit back there, right? More in the evening. I do the symbolic things in ink all over me like an idiot. Never do that. Please, for the love of God, never do that. I took advice to somebody who goes to these certain types of bonfire events, and I'm gonna leave it at that. I don't talk to this person anymore, and I definitely blocked everybody in that group afterwards. But they told me, maybe this will heighten it, maybe this will strengthen it, maybe this will be good. Here's some things that you can use. I tried my best to do research on it, but the type of stuff that they were working on is like book-related things. It's not like something you can Google or anything. It was book-related things, something that you would have to know by trade, basically, information trade. So I did that. I instantly kind of felt like nauseous because I was like, this is kind of a bad idea. So then we casually walked around the entire park till everybody left, and then we busted out our phones and started talking. We're like, okay guys, we need answers. What do you want me to do with my crystal? You know, I'll have salvation if I get rid of this. What about this crystal is bad? Because I feel protected. I feel fine. And they didn't really say much. They just said, break it now, set it free, break it now. You have to do it because it's like, you know, again, salvation. It talked about godly stuff and all that, and I'm just like, I was like, well, you know, maybe they're right. Maybe this is time to let go of what's attached to it, because I personally believed I had something attached to it, because it was the only way for that protective being, I will say, to leave my parents' house respectively and without getting lost or like floating about space. Or I don't know how it works. We don't know how it works. But in the time, I thought something was attached to my necklace because I had done something to, it was more like a ritualistic spell almost. We're gonna call it that. It's kind of like a limbo situation with that object. But anywho, my dummy self took it off. I broke it with the back of a flashlight because that place is creepy without a light. So I broke it with the back of the flashlight, and B's reading off what they're saying. As soon as I started to try to break the crystal, because I'm weak and it wasn't breaking at first, he started reading it off as they're laughing, we're laughing, like the words would pop up as we're laughing, or this is funny, or like literally ha ha, or hurry up, stuff like that. And it was like just right as the sun set. So I was like, that's odd. I guess they're just laughing at the fact that I'm weak. That's fine. You know, whatever. I was pretty weak and couldn't really do much or lift much. So I took it as like a funny thing. I didn't take it as a threat. Probably should have paid more attention. One piece went freaking flying. I couldn't even find that piece. I wanted to make sure nobody would step on it because crystal shards can still be technically kind of dangerous, so I didn't want anybody stepping on it with a bare foot if they had a bare foot. And then the other part of it, I just straight up chucked into the woods and was like, see ya, bye. And then things got really, really intense after that. Joking aside, and me thinking that it wasn't a big deal, I made a really big mistake. It got dark. We started hanging around still. I don't know why we didn't just leave. I was like, let's keep going. Let's keep talking. I think I'm okay. I think it's totally fine. I think it wasn't that big of a deal or anything that's dangerous. I think I may have let go of something that wanted to be let go. I let go of a spirit that wanted to be let go because I was holding on to the past and holding on to thinking I need that guidance and protection. We walked around the woods in the dark with a flashlight that scared the living bejesus out of us. I'm pretty sure it was animals for the most part. But the weirdest part about it, though, was that we kept hearing noises that were deliberately following us, and only on my side of the trail. So no matter which way I had switched on the trail when we were walking, I would hear noises right behind us in the trees. And it was like the freakiest thing, at least outside, I've ever experienced, except for the beach, which is another story for another time. I'm like, hey, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable because literally we're hearing sounds right behind me the entire time. I don't know what this means. Can we please leave? And B's like, yeah, I'm a little freaked out at this point. We should leave. So we literally hightail it. I'm sorry, I keep hearing and seeing things. I told them they were allowed to be active while I talk. So we keep hearing things, and I keep seeing like this shadowy figure behind us. I'm like, dude, it's a person. It has to be a person at this point. I don't know how they keep skipping across the trail without us nosing, but it has to be a person. There's no way that's not a person. And we get to the walking path where there's water on one side, and yes, it's running water, and then there's the wood, the tree line, right? We're halfway away from the entrance that we came from. I think there's 2 or 3 entrances. We came from the last one. I look behind me because I'm feeling watched. I relatively know now when I feel watched. I recently caught evidence on night vision camera on the times that I did feel watched that there was definitely an orb behind me. So this just kind of like clarifies back then that what I experienced just with my senses and not even any equipment, I definitely experienced and had something behind me. So in my own perspective and my own experience, I'm going to clarify that there is nothing possible to debunk what happened next, and especially when we got back to his house. So I look behind me, giant figure, but it was definitely over 6 foot. With the vit, it wasn't like, it looked like a giant boulder right where the tree line's at, but like not in the tree line. It was like if you were to just like stand right next to the tree line, basically. It didn't move, it didn't come closer, it was just there. I'm like, This isn't okay. I don't like this. I'm uncomfortable. We need to go. So we start speed walking even more. I look behind me again. It's there again, and it's closer. We get past the little tiny, it's not really a gate anymore, but there was a gate there from that trail onto the parking lot. And once again, it's closer. It's not moving when we look at it. It doesn't go anywhere. And then finally, when we get halfway through the parking lot and I shine my flashlight over there, like trying to expose if it was a person or not at this point, because I don't like to like scare things away. I mean, I probably should have tried. I probably should have tried first off with the flashlight. Wanted to be a little ballsy. I kind of wanted to like push my limits. So I flashed my flashlight over there. When I flashed my flashlight, it wasn't there. But when I turned off the flashlight, it was there. So at that point, I was completely freaked out. I was tired of it. I was exhausted. I needed to get all the stuff on my skin off of me, to which I can concur my skin was burning. I don't know if that was from the stress and sweat or from what I had on my skin that did something bad to myself, but I was sweating and I was burning. We're about to leave. The gate is still open. It's still in the hours that like the park is allowed to be open. He can't find his keys. He can't find his keys or anything to unlock the car. I'm panicking. I'm seeing the thing move now towards us. Next thing we know, his car alarm's going off, guys. His car alarm is just blaring into the night, and like there's neighbors nearby and everything, so we could actually like get the cops called on us. And I look like a maniac if they were to look like under my sleeves because I had a bunch of stuff drawn on me. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, dude, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. And he's just like, I can't find my fob. I can't find my key. And as the lights of the back of his car was flashing, I whipped around because I felt somebody behind me because I heard running. Like I heard like running behind me, like someone charging at me. Turn around. I'm about to fight. Like I'm already in my stance. And all I see is this like figure. It was like a black figure shrink down and whip around the car away from my view to the back of the car. So then I thought he was going to get attacked. I thought it was a person at first. I was very convinced it was a person. So I run around the back. I'm like, dude, and I couldn't even finish my sentence because like nobody was there. It was just him fumbling around in his pockets being like, I can't find my key. I can't find it. I'm so sorry. Blah, blah, blah. And then finally he finds it. It wasn't in his pocket. It was under his car, like under the car. I don't even know when he could have dropped it. And then he finally shuts off the alarm, and then we freak out and he gets the car unlocked and we go in the car. We don't leave right away because we definitely needed to catch our breath, and we don't see the thing by the entranceway of the actual park path, like where you go to the trails. We don't see it anymore. And I told him, dude, I saw a figure. I thought it was a person. I heard running. I thought we were going to get attacked by a person. And he's like, I heard the running too. That's why I was freaking out, because I genuinely thought somebody was coming for us or we were going to be in trouble. At some point on the drive home though, he had to stop because it was getting too much for him. I will say my responsibility with others when we did these things, we not only pushed ourselves, but we pushed each other irresponsibly, and it was not safe and it was not okay. But to also push myself to an extent that I could not handle at all, and potentially throwing ourselves into something we did not understand, and I still don't understand to this day, because things about that person's personality changed greatly after that night. I still am slightly under the impression that that person might have gotten possessed at the time, but that does not excuse previous behavior that I did see as red flags and was trying to help better the habits of that person. But I can confirm, in my experience, after that night, things got very, very, very dark with that person afterwards. And that is still a story I do not want to speak of because it's pretty bad. But I can speak of that night that happened and what kind of tumbled me spiritually and left me confused and terrified to ever communicate again. So we get home finally. I put my bag down because I had my bag with some snacks and drinks and stuff just in case we got thirsty while we were out. And it's on the back of the dresser. So this is a very thick boy dresser. Okay, and my bag's sitting on the very back of it against the wall. Fine. I'm feeling very uneasy. I was like, man, I really wish we had something to kind of cleanse ourselves before we came into this house, because this will be inviting something if something followed us, because we both saw this. We both experienced this. And he's like, I know, this is pretty terrifying. How about we just go to sleep? Just conk out. It's really late. We've been running ourselves thin in general, doing all this stuff. Why don't we just sleep? I'm like, I literally cannot sleep. There's no way in hell, after seeing what I saw, that I can sleep. I have not seen a figure that big before. Like, the last time I saw a figure even half that size was one at my parents', and that place was dark, spiritually speaking, and obviously all the other things. He lays down. I have a blow-up mattress, usually, but that night I could not sleep on that mattress by myself. So I asked if I could just chill on the end of the bed, because it's like, I think it was like a king bed or whatever. There was enough room for two without even having to like be near each other. So I was like, yo, can I just chill here for a bit, charge my phone? I'm a little freaked out still. I don't think I can sleep. Can we please keep that light on? Because he had a lamp on like right in front of us at the end of the bed. He was like, yeah, sure, it's fine, whatever. About 20 minutes, of dead silent, my bag goes flying off the dresser in front of us. It somehow went over his games, because he had a bunch of games stacked up in front of it. It somehow flew above his games and then onto the floor. It just went boom. I'm like, what is going on? Why did that happen? And he's like, are you sure it just wasn't on the edge? I'm like, dude, I swear to you, it was against the wall. You have this much space. Here's the wall. Here's the rest of the dresser, and then the edge of the dresser. Oh, you have that much space, and you think that just gravity? And he's like, I'm just trying to distract ourselves. It's a little hard to get some sleep when that stuff happened. We foul mouthing. We weren't mad at each other. We're just mad at the situation. We're like, really like, whoa. So I'm like, no, we're not turning this light off. I want another light on. I cannot sleep tonight. There's no way I can sleep, because that right there. And I didn't say it because, if you say it, you're feeding into it. And if you feed into it, obviously things will happen. Well, even just not even fully saying what I wanted to say probably fed into it. We get a breather. He lays back down. He conks out completely. He is asleep for at least 10 minutes. I'm like petrified at this point. Like gripping on the end of the bed, gripping to my phone, trying not to look anywhere in the room, because all we had was a small lamp on. That was it. There was no big light on. It was just that in his room. And I felt watched at his doorway, at his bedroom doorway. First, I felt it the moment it made itself known. I don't know how to explain this, but I felt it way before he was even close to the bedroom door. I felt it. And I could feel it build up and build up and build up and come closer and just make itself more known. And it was like it was just sucking all the air out of the entire house, basically. And it just felt heavy. And I felt it coming for us. And it's like, I've been in these situations before with intruders. I don't know if anybody would ever watch this and know the feeling of intrusion, like somebody breaking into your home or whatever. But it felt like that. It felt like impending doom. Like somebody that I had to hide from was coming for me. And there was nowhere to hide. And I was wide awake, of course. So I know it wasn't sleep paralysis. I've experienced sleep paralysis in my life, and I never experienced anything with that. If anything, I'm like, I can't move, and that's it. I don't see anything, I don't experience anything, and it happened when I was a child. I've never had sleep paralysis since childhood. I knew I was awake. I knew I couldn't hide. I knew there was nowhere to go, and I knew waking him up would be extremely difficult. It just sat there on the other side of the doorway. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just a feeling of it was there. It was sitting outside waiting for that light to go off. People who maybe have went to the side of things in their life, I don't know, I don't care what age you are. If you've experienced things like this, I would like to have a discussion about these things. I do have a little bit of a different perspective on it now, several years later, but it was extremely terrifying then. So, for some reason, out of nowhere, literally out of nowhere, he decides to wake up. But it wasn't like he was awake. It was a bit odd. Like, I was laying there on my phone looking at my social feed, and for whatever reason, he literally just got up. But it didn't sound like he usually woke up, because we had to share the room at the time, because I was couch surfing, if you would call it. He got up, scooted all the way to the end of the bed, and I was screaming at him at this point. I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? No answer. Hey, please don't turn that light off. I asked you to keep it on. No answer. I'm not kidding you. Literally, this man did not answer me at all. He completely ignored me, and that's not the type of person that, like, he was to ignore anybody. I keep hearing noises, and I'm just like, I know it's my safe spirits, but it's just like, it's intimidating when I'm trying to talk. All right, so I'm screaming at him. I'm like, do not turn that light off. Do not turn that effing light off. Do not turn that light off. Of course. He turns it off. That was a ferret. But he does not turn it off in the way that you would expect somebody to just simply turn off a light because he's annoyed by the light and he's trying to sleep. No. He went out of his way to unplug the light from the back of the dresser. Not the literal pulley. This person unplugged it from the wall. From the wall. And I was like, okay, all right. I'm just gonna take it as you really annoyed with me right now and you just want to sleep. You know, mentally I was reeling through that. I didn't say anything. I was literally so petrified. I was like, okay, sure. We're gonna just ignore everything that happened tonight and just unplug the light entirely and have zero light in this room because there was like blackout curtains and everything. And he lays back down. And he goes immediately into snoring. I was like, okay, great. I'm back to laying down. And I feel it. I'm still feeling it the entire time. It waiting outside. Well, as soon as he settled back down for whatever reason he got up, I'm on my phone. And I just feel like this wave of just like cold. It was just cold. It was so freaking cold. And that room was never cold. It was kept at a temperature that was very mild and it was like, it was nice. But it was freezing. So I look up from my phone and I look across the room and lo and behold, giant figure. It literally almost reached the entire ceiling. And they had high ceilings. They had ceilings like we have at this house. High ceilings. It almost reached the entire ceiling and it covered the entire corner right behind the door. Just this giant black dome sitting there. I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god. And I'm panicking and I'm paralyzed because I'm just like, I'm awake. I'm awake. The main reason why I was panicking because I knew I was awake. I knew I was awake. I just witnessed somebody get up that was with me the same night, of course. Turn off the lamp in such an odd way without even seeming like they're awake and lay back down. And through this entire panic and me trying to like squish myself into the mattress because I am so terrified and I'm freezing and I can't move at this point out of being petrified, it just starts inching closer and closer and closer and closer. It felt like an eternity of just unable to move. It was nothing like I have ever experienced before. It was nothing like sleep paralysis. It was nothing like shock because I've been through shock too. And it kind of like cascaded over me like a wave almost and then crouched down into my face. And this is the freaky part. And of course, I don't expect everybody to believe what I'm about to say. I don't. I really don't. And it's okay if you don't. It's okay if you take this as just a random scary story. But this is a personal experience that I did have. So I'm just going to say it that. I didn't see a hand. I couldn't even look down. But I could feel that it reached out its arm into my chest. When I tell you, I literally felt like my actual heart was going to be ripped out. Like Indiana Jones scene type deal. I swear to you, that is exactly what it was going for. Something probably not physical, but felt physical. It was trying to take from me. It was trying to take something from me. I don't know what it was. I don't understand. to this day fully what exactly this entire experience meant, but it was trying to take something from me. My heart, my physical insides were ice cold. There was only been one other time where I felt like my insides were cold, and it wasn't a spiritual thing. It was just bad weather and terrible clothing attire at the time. But my insides felt cold, just right here, just where my heart's at. And I could feel something pulling. I could feel it pulling at something. I don't know. I don't know. To me, I'm just going to say it was my heart. What else would it be in this area? You know, other than my lungs. But it didn't feel like my lungs, because it's like I could still breathe despite everything, but it was like labored breathing. So I'm looking this thing dead in the blackness. Like, I can't see anything else in the room anymore at this point. Like, it was a dark room, but once your eyes adjust, you can at least see something, like, you know, shadows or light refractions or very, very dim light, you know, but I could see literally nothing. It was blacker than black, and it was taking something from my chest. I finally got the nerve to scream. I didn't say anything particularly. I just screamed as loud as I could. And I rolled over, and it felt like, and I rolled off the bed, because I felt like that was the best option. As I rolled off the bed, I could feel it, like, peel off my skin, like spiderweb. Think of like the thickest spiderweb you have ever walked through. If you ever experienced walking through spiderwebs, I've walked through tons of them because of all the trails I walk on in the areas and all the freaking locations with spiders in Florida. Just imagine the thickest spiderweb you've ever experienced. Sorry, I literally almost like choked and died. Just peeling off your skin, but it was ice cold. So I'm screaming, I'm crying, I'm freaking out. I'm like, he took something from me. He took something from me. Something happened. I'm like, turn on the light, turn on the light, turn on the light right now, turn on now, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up right effing now. I was like cussing up a storm. You know, anybody who would be panicking that much would be doing the same. He wakes up out of his sleep. He's like, oh my God, what's going on? Oh God, why is the light off? What's happening? And then he tried turning it on with the actual pulley. And he's like, why isn't it turning on? What happened? I'm like, you unplugged it, you bastard. You unplugged it. How? Like, I was just going off. I was like, how effing dare you unplug it? Why would you do this to me? You knew this was dangerous to do. You knew that we just came back for something like this. Why would you do this? I was just like, all off on him, because in the moment, at least, I didn't realize he didn't have any recollection of doing what he did. He finally plugs it on. He finally plugs it in, and he's freaking out. I'm freaking out, and he's reassuring that he swears on God, like, because, you know, he was slightly religious, so, like, he swore to that he didn't do it on purpose. He had no recollection, and wasn't a prone sleepwalker at all either, like, ever. So I finally calmed down after several panic attacks later, several minutes of just like crying hysterically on the floor and still feeling pain in my chest. So we didn't sleep the rest of the night. When I did finally fell asleep, he kept watch, and it was during the day, and we had to have all curtains open. Before sundown, we went to go get sage. Again, I'm way more educated in sage, so I see why now that didn't do anything. Because it not only gets rid of certain negative, but it gets rid of positive too. And all the work that I did to keep it positively safe there for a bit, didn't matter. So, like, I just made matters worse and made it have free range of the room and the house, but it mainly affected where we were at. But yeah, that's basically the experience. That's basically like the big punch in the gut of what made me stop investigating was that night. What led to after it was a lot more activity. There was growling. There was still cold chills. I didn't really see it again till I moved back in with my home from my childhood. And I'm kind of convinced it kind of stuck around there or my ex's house, because it kind of just, I don't know where it went. That was the only time I experienced it full-heartedly, and it was after me, was that night. I don't know what it wanted to take from me. I don't know if that's what possession experiences are, because they don't really talk about, like, to my knowledge, I haven't really found any places that actually talk about what the first-hand experiences of possession is. It didn't do it successfully if that was the case, because I would still be experiencing things to this day. But it either stuck around those 3 houses I stayed at that are also very spiritually negative. Like, it was already negative to begin with at that person's place that I was staying at. And then my ex-partner, also really negative place. I mean, y'all know that. And then the third place was my childhood home as well. So within those 2 years of cycling, trying to get my life stabilized and away from the environment I was raised in, there was a lot of growling, there was a lot of things being thrown, and a lot of nightmares of that said thing and experience over and over and over and over again. And then it kind of faded away after I changed everything about my life, basically, and I kind of just abandoned entirely, people pleasing, and got tired of being treated the way I was treated. So I got a lucky strike, and then since then it's been better, and I've never experienced that entity again. And if I ever come across it again, it's gonna be in trouble, because obviously there's nothing to gain from me at this point. I'm pretty sure there was things that could definitely feed off from me back then, but like with the protection that I have now and the education I have now as an actual like adult and not just a teenager or young adult that was in a really bad predicament in life situation, there's no way in hell that would happen again. And if it does, at least I would know how to handle it to avoid what I experienced that night. Okay guys, so this is like the last portion of the video that I would like to discuss. So what's coming in the future? Okay, so what's happening now, what's coming in the future, what are my thoughts about everything? I mentioned earlier, opinion of other friends that I've discussed about this. Some people said it might have been an omen. It might have been a spirit that was manifesting in a type of feeling I would get in the future, a type of experience, and what I would be feeling in the future. It kind of like fits into that. I like that. But I don't know, man, unless you were there, unless you were there. But if it was like a spirit that somehow manifested itself that strong to tell me, hey, trouble's coming, hey, this is going to happen, then I'm more than willing to accept that, because there was other things that I had spiritually and just instinctually as a person happen to me when I was in my previous relationship. I used to have night terrors, and those night terrors would blatantly tell me, hey, you're in danger. And I woke up to another entity, literally, I couldn't breathe, essentially, is what I'm saying. But that could have been sleep paralysis actually manifesting into, like, an entity there. So I have no idea what that experience was about, really. But a lot of things happened right after that night. A lot of things really, really, really hit rock bottom, and they continued to hit rock bottom whether I wanted to accept that or not about my life. So I continued on with my life without being spiritual up until the end of 2019 going into 2020. And of course the pandemic happened, and a lot of COVID and a lot of tragedy happened with that. So out of respect, I wasn't traveling, I wasn't doing anything for that, and I was like, well, I'll just do it at home. I don't really feel comfortable doing that in my space, so I'm not even gonna like do it in the house. And that was more of like the meditative state, more of like just doing positive spell work or whatever, and getting back into at least my practice in my religion that I follow. I'm an eclectic type person, so I use different aspects of certain ones that are open, at least, and not closed, but open religions. And I take those aspects into my studies and everything from different subjective and objective intakes. So I got into that. And then I'm like, hey, everything's going great with my life and my partner and everything, and he is very accepting and everything, and he experiences spirituality and spirits way different than I do. Like, his perception, depth of it's very just like, if a spirit wanted to show themselves to him and he saw it, he'd be like, okay, cool, that's cool, hi. And then that's it. No more after that. Like, he's like, whatever. And, recently he's experienced a lot of things with me with devices working and everything. And been on a couple trips with me and has seen the evidence that I collect. And yeah, he's very, very accepting. So I got back into it, you know, in the little kiddie pool. And I was like, this is cool, this is cool. And then I met a certain YouTuber that is a friend of mine now. We don't really get to obviously see much of each other or collab together because, you know, busy lives. I'm constantly busy. Him and his family is constantly busy. So we never really get to do anything together. And, you know, our ideals on how to investigate are kind of different. He's more of a sense person, while now I'm getting more into the technology. So if he ever wanted to collab and he ever wanted to work with me, that would probably have to be really tediously planned. Because I'm always up to something, and so are they. But besides that, it just inspired me. It kind of gave me back my spark. And then I started finding other YouTubers that came from different types of platforms, and they also were like being more open about it in a different format. Like Selena, if you guys have ever heard of Selena, that's from TikTok and also does podcasts and stuff on YouTube. Hi Selena, you'll never see this, but hi, I love you. She all the time discusses things and is very open with her experiences and the things that she's done in her past and what kind of drove her away from things as well. And I'm like, damn, I never thought I would ever find somebody to be that open on the internet and kind of like talk about their experiences and like be genuine and be like, hey, this spooky stuff happened, but like, you know, it was a turn point for my life. So after all of that traveling that I've done during vacations usually, because I didn't really have a set format on how I was going to investigate, I'm still trying to figure it out, so please excuse my inconsistency. Things started happening a lot at the house by itself, and I'm just like, this house is usually quiet, and I'm not saying the whole house is active. I'm actually only saying this room in particular is active, and the garage. So what I mean by that, which hopefully in the future, very near future, I will show you guys exactly what I mean by that. Things follow me. Things might have followed me home at some point, and I do have, before my recent purchases and my recent findings, I did have a previous haunted doll. He's a very, very protective chap, and that spirit, I'm under the implications, I hope I'm using that correctly, that he is the same spirit that was attached to that necklace I mentioned earlier on. So that's how that circles back, is that spirit never left. That spirit knew he had to stick around for whatever reason, and whatever I was told at that park was complete lies to get me unguarded and unprotected. And that's my belief right now. That kind of really ties into my roots as a spiritualist in general. Activity. There was a lot of activity happening in the house. There was activity to begin with, like when I first moved in. I'm like, hey babe, you know, things are literally flying in front of me in the garage. Y'all got any old antique stuff in here? You got any relative stuff in here? Any relative stuff in the attic by chance that they might be attached to, like, or they really, really liked? Because whenever I do my art out there, something kind of gets pushed or tossed that's like, that's not gravity and there's no wind draft anywhere. Like, I was working on spring hats one time, and I left the garage, and then the door was open. I was making some mac and cheese because it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I used to have a really bad schedule, but I was working at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I literally watched a blue hat go from its complete side down all the way over, like at least by 3 feet. So there was very, very little activity, and then it just kept picking up over time. So I decided recently, after a couple of vacation trips and everything, and trying to get my grounds and what exactly I wanted to do and how I would communicate and how I would intake, you know, some spirits that are into talking to people that are living still, and some spirits that are like, no, I hate you, get out of here. Which, speaking of my old videos, there's a few of them that they did not like me. But they just seemed like spirits from my past, spirits from my family's house, spirits from my traveling, spirits that might have already been here, but they don't like talking. They like making noise when I guess I'm kind of annoying them out in the garage with loud sounds. But they don't really leave the garage or that area or the attic area, because I hear them in the attic all the time out there. And I'm like, that's got to be an animal, but every time I go get my fiance to check, there's never an animal. That's basically how I got back into it. I kind of like weaned into it quietly, and then I started being just a little bit more public about it, did a few little trips here and there. if I was sponsored, like, I would be doing a lot more trips, and if I was anywhere closer to being a YouTuber with a lot more following, I'd be able to afford it off of revenue or whatever to go and do these things more often. At least y'all know that I am starting from bottom basically, and I am working my way and earning my place, because, you know, one day my hard work will pay off. One day I'll hit my next lucky streak, and one day I'll find the right people to appreciate my content, because not everybody's into the things that I do, and I can totally respect that, as long as they're not being disrespectful or like basically trying to walk all over me telling me what's what. Because I'm not telling you what's what, I'm just telling you what I'm experiencing, and that's it. Like, if I sound crazy to you, I don't care. Take it as a story then, I guess. Deduce it to the way that you can, is what I'm saying. Recently, I've been in the quiet works of working on some trips. I haven't been able to do any spiritual videos per se, because I'm in an experimental phase right now. I just literally have over, I think I have 9 or 10 dolls that might be actually actively haunted. One of them is behind me. Came from the same home, from a very nice lady. The guy who sold me to her in the flea market sold them to me dirt cheap, and I caught orbs coming directly from them. I have a lot of dolls on a shelf over here to my left, and I sleep right under them, so you can see where there's not much room in the room right now because I keep buying more. A friend of mine gave me a few. I guess I can consider it gifted to me. They still haven't given me a price. I usually pay for things regardless, but until they, like, I don't know, call that out as a thing, I'm just gonna say gifted. So again, thank you so much. The 4, you know, dolls that you gave me, they've been adjusting really well, and they really like to show themselves. So far what I know about the dolls, oh, so I have another one from Vermont. I have the little girl from Vermont. So that one's spectacular. I love that one as well. And then I have some vintage clown and jester dolls, and one's a music box. And I thought they were very cool, and I actually went back to get more. So I have more purposeful activity happening in my sleeping space, living space. And yes, my partner is okay with it, and yes, my partner doesn't care, and yes, he supports it, and yes, he's into it, and yes, you don't have to worry about him hating me because of it. He does not care, and the way he experiences things is completely opposite to what I would experience. So any future videos of him just not understanding what might happen is literally because he doesn't intake it like I would, or anybody else spiritually super involved would. And I can totally respect that, because he's just that chill with it. He's chill with most things. So yes, it's fine. I know I'm gonna get people commenting about that on my social media or messaging me after this, but I'm telling you, he does not care. And my other partners also, they also support it very much. So I have about 9. Okay, I have about 9. They're very active. I have a lot of night footage. I have a camera coming in today or tomorrow that also has night vision on it, and I want to get full captured activity of them. I even have daytime footage of orbs flying around me. I have a lot of what I call evidence. And when I say evidence, I don't say factual, because I know everybody doesn't believe in it, but when I say evidence, it's just evidence. I have a lot of orbs. I have a lot of activity. I have a lot of cat ball activity. They have not been able to use my newer devices that I got, but that's okay. Sometimes it takes time. I'm totally understanding of that. I'm trying to get into a practice to where they can try. I think they've actively been actually trying to use these devices. So we're going to get into the device talk real quick. This is a long video. This is a very chat video and informative video, because this is also an update on what's going to happen this summer. Woo! And maybe this fall. I don't know yet about the fall. I have to really look into that and plan it very precisely. But I'll show you my devices. So right now, I've got several cameras. So I've got my phone camera. It's a really good phone camera. I've got a older camera I really hate, but it's good to catch EVPs because of the white noise on it. I have a GoPro. Sound isn't that best quality and picture is pretty good. And then I have another video recorder coming in with night vision and some other things and a mic, which is fantastic, and I'm really excited to get that. I hope I get it today or tomorrow. Don't know. And then after that, I have also an EMF meter. That's the usual thing. The same friends that gave me the dolls also gave me a EVP recorder. I actually haven't used these in quite some time. Last time I used these was at my parents' house because somebody wanted to literally leave me alone in the living room and see what they would catch using me as bait. That's not a joke. Like, I literally was used as fucking spirit bait, and it was rude. So I have these. I have not tested to see if it works. And if anybody who has been in the field or has also like watched a lot of videos and a lot of investigative TV shows or documentaries, cat balls, very good quality cat balls. I love these things. These things have proven their damn worth, and I love them. Recently purchased, I've got an EMF K2 / REM pod bear. So basically it works by touch on this black wire on his head. I was a little disappointed. that it was only on his head, but you know what? It's okay. I have a design coming myself prior to getting this, so I'll have 2 different versions of these devices anyways. 1 second. Oh god, we don't like that. There's 2 different versions. There's like an EMF REM pod sound. Why do I keep saying EMF? REM pod sound, and there's like a musical sound. So this is like the REM pod sound. It's very obnoxious, but it's not as loud as the big super expensive high-tech ones. These are actually very affordable, and I will recommend these people. Very cute. I have not gotten any spirits to use this yet or set it off yet, but they are called the Attic Junkie, and they make very affordable, very nice quality equipment. Do spirits set them off? Is that something that's factual that or not factual? Is that something evidently that I can say? I can't say that yet until somebody, whether on my adventures in the future or in this household, sets it off. I have no idea. I'm still new to the field of how easy or how difficult it is for spirits to set this off. But there's this one. Very cute bear. It's called the Scare Bear. Funny. And he will be going on to my future adventures I'm going on. Okay, next. This is a REM pod. This is a type of REM pod. It's got the whole antenna and everything. Oh, let me show you the sticker first. Oh, as I cover it. But I'm going to cover this in stickers. Not cover this sticker, obviously, but I'm going to put like Hello Kitty stickers on this thing. Just because it's intimidating looking, and I just want it to like look cute. But yeah. So you turn it on, and it's basically by, you know, disturbance. It's very cool. I love this thing. You touch the box or you touch the antenna and it will go off. So there's a part here, and then there's all this. Nobody set it off yet. I have tried to get my spirits to set it off. And again, the night vision did show that they were very close to it. They were very near it, but there's something a little off on how they can set it off, and that's something that I have to learn over time of what exactly they can do to help themselves do that and how I can help them. And I also have dowsing rods, so a lot of different things to catch different activity. I'm going in full force, and what I'm about to announce right now here on my YouTube channel, and I'm excited. And here's the announcement. June 4th, 7 p.m. to 1 a.m. in the morning, I am going to be in Pennsylvania. I'm going to be officially at Penhurst State School Asylum. I almost didn't go this year. I actually already thought they sold out like January 1st. But I realized that was just an update I didn't understand. And I was dumb, and it just went over my head. So I just randomly one night recently, I went back on the page by accident because it was still pulled up on my tab. That's how dedicated I am to trying to get to these places. And they had some summer slots to go into. So me and my fiance are road tripping all the way up there and back to Pennsylvania to visit Pennhurst. Now, the way I want to start covering places like this isn't like going there for shock value or anything. I literally want to learn. I literally want to learn about these people that were there. I want to learn about the people that were forgotten there. I want to learn about the people who didn't have a voice. Now, over the years, they definitely have had more of a voice because they have owners that definitely are way open to this and not only do the haunted house attraction, but they do paranormal activity investigations. And they are open to it and they respect these spirits. So obviously I'm going to respect them too. Based on other YouTubers that I've watched that have been here, of course it's not something they have to do, but it's something I want to do. So let me preference that. This is something that I personally wanted to do. When I go places, if they're new, I'll do history checks after. If there's something I know about, I want to try to get as honest as possible. I want to be as honest as possible, get what I can that I think is a source that is factual and helpful. So already yesterday, I spent the entire day getting a bunch of different things that I didn't even know about this place from a documentary, from people who have actually lived and worked there. And I've also done some Google researching, and I'm even going to go as far as to hopefully go to a library after my PAX trip to Boston in April. I'm going to spend some time, like some weekends, and visit a library to see if maybe I can get some newsletters and extra information. If I can't, I have a lot of information to talk about this place and the timeline of it. So you will have that video of an entire timeline as your first video of Pennhurst State Asylum. And hopefully I'll get 2 videos worth of very long footage of evidence, and then anything that I might have had to leave out or clip note it or whatever, maybe I'll do an extra video of Pennhurst and mix in some stuff that's happened here at this home, because I have a lot of activity I've caught so far on our security camera, and I will be experimenting a lot on the new camera I just got that hopefully comes in by tomorrow. And yeah, that's basically it. Pennhurst State Asylum School is happening June 4th. I will be recording June 4th. I will have a vlog from Florida to Pennsylvania and back of our road trip and what happened, and some sneak peek. I'll be posting sneak peeks on Instagram, posting sneak peeks on all my platforms the day that I arrive, and I will try my honest and my best to give you guys a really good video and a really good like mini series of what I've learned about the place, what I've learned about the spirits there, what I've learned about the perspectives of the people who take care of that place. Maybe if we get a guide that is open to talking and being on film, or even just voice wise being on film, I would really appreciate it. I'm going to try to contact like a few days ahead of time or even earlier in that day to see which day or which person's going to be our guide, and see if they're open to talking and even explaining more equipment that's there, because they provide some equipment, but I wanted to make sure I had my own equipment so I know that like it is as genuine as it can get. I'm not saying they do anything to their equipment. I'm just for you guys as my viewers. No, it's my equipment. I have no idea how to tamper with this stuff. Oh, that was me. To tamper with this stuff, even if I wanted to. And turn that off. So, like, I'm just as clueless as to how some of these things work as you are. Like, I really, like, I know the basics. I know why it does it, what it does. But to make one or to mess with them, that boy got no idea. So I don't know why I did that. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to Pennhurst in June, and that is my entire update and story on how things came to be. I have new entities with me in the house. I try to keep things on lockdown so nobody else is bothered in the home. Of course, they have their radius, they know the rules. I have very set rules, and not a single one has broke them. I've never had a spirit break a rule before, and I really appreciate that. They're very welcoming and awesome spirits, and they are helping me a ton learn already before I even go on this venture in June. As for October, I have not fully planned that yet. I want to get at least 2 locations with a lot of lore in them, at least, to do some smaller investigative things and, you know, little cliff note type deals with also history background to it, and talk about that and discuss it as well. But that is still on the unsure spectrum because there's a lot of planning and that's a longer stay up north. And like there's things about figuring out transportation as well. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video and my little podcasty talk. I hope you enjoyed what I had to discuss and what I had to share about my personal experiences from way back up until now, and my quick updates on what's to come to my channel and how I want to engage in this realm again. I want to do what I want to do. I want to take that big step forward and like show my passion basically, and something that really kept me going when I was at my lowest. I still continue to do these things because I was at the lowest of my life a few years ago, and I didn't have the opportunity all throughout growing up or early beginnings of adulthood to do any of these things, and I'm just now being able to get a taste of it. I'm just now being able to get my foot in the door. So I really appreciate anybody who supports me on any of my platforms or any of the work that I do in general, with my art, with my site work, with my photography, with my crafting, with my cosplay, with my occasional traveling. This is a traveling year. It's been the traveling year because a lot of traveling I wanted to do in the past was set aside because of COVID and health reasons. I'm still having health reasons, but you know what? You literally only live once, so I'm just gonna like ignore it. Of course, I go to doctors when I really have to, but like I ignore it. But I swear to you guys, I do take a break when I need to. I know you guys always see me super busy, always like complaining about how busy I am, even though I put it on myself. And I really appreciate all of you, and I appreciate everything that I am able to do because of my partner and his support, and my other partner's support, and my friend's support, and his family's support. I really, really, really do appreciate it a lot. I don't vocalize it in this sense much because I am an anxious being, and I don't like to be myself because I feel like people don't like it. But you know what? They're not going to like me even if I try to conform to their ideal of what I should be. So yeah, like there was a big FU flag that flew late last year that I'm just like, I'm done. I can be as goofy as I want to and who I could be. Also, like, if you want to sponsor me, like legit, if you're somebody who is searching for sponsorships and everything, I am open to be sponsored and to work in that field. I'll know if you're a scam because I have ways of figuring it out, so be careful, don't even try me. But I do have an email I will be making for this video and future videos after this where you can email me and we can work on a sponsorship deal. And yeah, so I'm open for sponsorships and collabs and work as well. And that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it through this entire video, please like and subscribe. This is what helps me keep going and keep motivated and know exactly what my audience likes and what audience I need to find if you don't like it, and work on my algorithm and work on the details. So again, thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.